Good day to all our viewers, and thank you so much for joining me on this webinar. You can call me JK if you like. So we're going to spend a little time talking about this very interesting and important topic of large account sales, selling to large accounts. And I would request you to note down any questions you have in the course of this webinar, any points, any comments that you would like to make on things which are mentioned here, or even on points which are not mentioned here related to this topic. So let's talk about large account selling. First thing is, what is a large account? In the context of large account sales and marketing, a large account is any organization which has multiple decision makers, multiple influencers, and an institutionalized or structured procurement process, even if it is not very formal. That means that if you're selling your product or your service to a company where there are more than, let us say, one or two people involved in taking a decision, and if they have a structured process, say first requesting for more proposals, then doing a technical evaluation, and then doing a shortlist, and then making a purchase, then you're doing large account selling. So large account selling is actually different, quite different from selling over the counter, selling to an individual, selling to even a small business, which is almost the same as an individual, where a proprietor acts like an individual who's making a decision on his or her own. And it's a different science. Each type of selling or marketing is an art. Over the counter retail sales is also a different art. So before we go into the art and science of large account selling, I think it's important to decide whether it is important at all to do it for your organization. Is large account selling necessary to do, and is it good for your organization? Now, there are a number of reasons why you should decide why to sell to large accounts and whether you should be selling to large accounts. The first reason is whether your product or service is consumed by large accounts at all. For example, suppose you sell some kind of equipment which is used in, let's say, airports. Then the only kind of customer you can have is a large account. You don't have a retail customer or an individual customer. The second is, if you have a product or a service which needs to be customized a tremendous amount, that means that there is a service component with a product, or it's a pure service, and there's a lot of customization to be done, then it makes sense to have as much of replicable business from the same customer as possible, as much of repeat business, and to focus on service delivery rather than on business development. So in such cases, it's a good idea to do large account selling rather than selling to individuals or small businesses. The third could be, if to sell your product or service, you need to do a lot of extensive research or groundwork to understand the customer's requirement, size the customer's requirement, and fit in your service offering. Again, in such cases, it is important to actually work on maximum return on investment. So if you're selling to a large account, with the same kind of effort, you're likely to get a lot more business, a lot of repeat business. The funny thing is, sometimes a very advanced or complicated product is very easy to sell. For example, this mobile phone. Now, this is a simple model, but any mobile phone is complicated. It has a chip which is only made in some companies, in some countries of the world. It has embedded software. It has a lot of technology going into it. But who can sell a mobile phone? Almost any youngster who reads a brochure. Now, who can sell, let us say, an event management contract to organize a seminar or a conference? That's much simpler than selling a mobile phone, or rather it's much simpler to do than a mobile phone. Almost anyone can organize an event. Everyone cannot manufacture a mobile phone. But then if you want to sell an event management program, then you have to ask so many questions. You have to spend so much time working with your client that you might as well actually work with a client with whom you'll get a lot more business. Otherwise, if you work with one small client, once you go and make a sale, even if you do a great job, you're not going to get a whole lot of repeat business. So in such cases, again, it's important to go for large account management. So it's in such cases. Also, if your business is structured to benefit better from bulk orders or from orders, repeat orders from the same customer, then you should be doing large account selling. And once you decide that large account selling is for you and it's what your business needs, then you'll have to actually modify your processes, modify your strategies to suit that, because it's not the same as any type of selling, it's different. And the reason why we call this webinar the art and the science is, in the beginning it becomes like it starts off as an art where you have to actually understand what to do. But after that you've got to make a science out of it so that more people can follow it. Salespeople you hire, they can apply the same strategies, and finally it should become a technology which can be replicated. So now that we've decided that we want to do large account selling, perhaps for your business for particular reasons, if you've decided that large account selling is for you, let's go on into how large account selling is different, how it is different from other types of selling. The first thing is, in large account selling, there's a funny statement: less is more and more is less. That means that you probably don't need to go and look for a lot of clients. I see a lot of small businesses, startup entrepreneurs saying, we need to go and chase as many leads as possible. We need to generate as many leads as possible. Now that's fine if you have a packaged product, if you have a product which you can just store and ship off every time somebody asks. But if you're in the business of doing, say, something like software consulting, and you have to go and do a study of your client and then give him a proposal, study of your prospect rather, give him a proposal and then convert it, then you're doing large account selling, and you probably don't need a lot of leads, because the amount of time, funds and people you spend, you invest on for business development is going to be huge, and you may not have really the returns for that if some of those orders don't work out. So it's important to actually focus on a few customers or a few prospects. In fact, a very good way to do it is to actually say, let's go for a bunch of accounts which are must-have accounts or priority accounts, and really focus on closing those, and then build a slightly bigger funnel. But the important thing is, while you're doing something like retail sales or product sales, shipping off from a website or something like that, you may look at the maximum and you may say, I should have a minimum of 1,000 leads. Here it's the other way around. You should look at a maximum limit. That is, you should say, I should be looking at not more than 100 prospects, of which I shall focus on 20 in this quarter. The second thing is that large account management is never a one-off transaction like selling over the counter. It's not like a car salesman trying to make a one-off sale. It's a relationship management activity. Any large account you get into, it takes a long time. It takes a while to get empaneled. That's what scares off a lot of small entrepreneurs. But once you're in for a long time. And you should actually try to farm that account and get the returns over a period of time. The third thing is that large account management requires a lot of preparation. Preparation is critical and information is power. Extensive knowledge of the customer's environment are really necessary. What does the customer say he wants? What is he actually looking for? How many people in the customer organization are involved in making the decision? Who do they buy from now? What is the background? What kind of procurement process do they have? Do they have a tender process? Do they go for the lowest price or the highest technical specs? Who has been selling there so far, and are they happy with their current vendors? Who is the customer's competition? What are the products available, and so on and so forth. So the more you know, the better it is. In fact, if you're doing large account selling, your salesperson may have to work for months or at least several weeks to even get the first presentation, where you get a pitch presentation with the customer. And it's very important to know as much about the customer as possible before you go in to make that single pitch presentation. So while large account selling is a huge ocean in itself, let's go on to a few immediate strategies which you could probably think of applying in your own business if you are selling to large accounts. As mentioned earlier, the start is very important in terms of who is the prospect base that you target. You should not target a whole lot of leads where you don't have much information. But if you say that there are about 1,000 companies which can buy my product, narrow it down to about 100 which you will engage with immediately, and probably about 20 where you prepare, get all the background information, and then go and make a pitch. The second thing is, you must have After the first point of building a small prospect base, the second thing is you must have enough of salesperson or account management bandwidth to allocate to that large account. Either the CEO himself can sell, which is a good idea only in a very early stage startup, or you got to have a well-equipped account manager. A lot of organizations, small startups which actually do large account selling, begin to sell to one large account and grow with that single large account. And they grow so well that they're not able to think beyond that. They're not able to de-risk themselves and get additional prospects to actually replicate that success. One common problem that many of these small startups have, and I know because I ran one for more than a decade, which had the same issue, is you start selling to one large corporation, maybe client X, and then the more people you have, client X gives you so much business that you keep putting all the people in the same client's projects. So you become a victim of your own success. In such cases, what the small business should do is to hire a new account manager and say, you are not going to step into client X sales or service delivery no matter what happens. Even if we are really, really crunched for bandwidth, you are only going to call on client Y, client Z, or rather prospect Y, prospect Z, prospect W, and so on. And your job is to get business from them in the next 6 months. I'm not going to ask you questions before that. All you have to do is just plan well and get into these accounts, penetrate them, and then get business from them. So we will have metrics like, have you made presentations, have you mapped out the account, understood enough. But if you don't get any business for the next 3 months or 6 months, it's okay. So that investment really needs to be made for large account management to allocate enough of skilled manpower who can consistently and sustainably service the large account. This is what you have to do if you're entering an account for the first time. But even if you have already penetrated an account, then you need dedicated account management resources for that account. In fact, it's all the more critical. That does not mean you need to have one account manager for each large account, but you have to have, you could have one account manager for 5 large accounts, or maybe for 1 or 2 intense large accounts where you've already gotten, and then 5 other prospects where there's a little less work. But you've got to divide that workload judiciously and see that you have enough of skilled manpower bandwidth to service that account. The third point, as already mentioned, is you have to study the prospect account fully well, understand its decision making, identify key players, and the results and the wins that they're looking for. Now, what are results and what are wins? The thing is, let us say that there's an account, there's a large account, let's say a government organization or a big multinational corporation where you're trying to sell a product. Let us say you are in the business of selling some kind of high-end computer software product for a new application. Now, the result that everyone looks for if you're selling computer software, a software package, are pretty much the same. They look for high performance, perhaps fairly open kind of systems which can integrate with legacy systems. They look for ease of use. They look for fast implementation time. So these are the results that everyone looks for. The wins that each person looks for may be different. Perhaps as a CIO who's going to retire soon from your large account prospect, so he doesn't want to rock the boat. He doesn't want any new change. Or perhaps conversely, there's a young new CIO who's just taken over and who wants to bring in some new change to show a CEO. Now that's a very personal and a different kind of objective. So that is typically classified as a win that the customer is looking for, which is a little more subjective, different from a result, which is a little more objective and something which is more mainstream. So it's critical that before approaching a large account, you understand what they're looking for as much as possible, meet as many people as possible there, try to make friends, try to get people to coach you, tell you what needs to be done for you to get business, try to achieve a win-win for the customer, and so that even when you make your first pitch there, you're fully prepared and you make the most effective, strong pitch. Finally, the entry into a large account, if you're entering it for the first time, has to be timed well. And it's the timing is really a combination not only of your strengths and your own performance, your own product's inherent strengths and limitations, but also the opportunity in the environment and the situation in the account. For example, the simplest thing is the large account has an express need. They come out with a request for proposal, or they say, I need this product. The second is, which is even more interesting, is they have a crucial pain point. They say, I need this service and I need it fast. The third, which is even more interesting, is there's been a service breakdown. That is, they have a problem with their existing vendor. Now, if you've been in business for some time as an entrepreneur or as a business manager in a medium-sized organization, you've no doubt had this experience of going to customers, giving them your presentation, giving them your product literature, telling them about your product, and they say, this is great, I'll get back to you when I need it. And you don't know why. They're just not listening to you. They're not giving you a chance to present your product properly. You're sure you can beat competition, but they're so happy with competition and you've got a better product which is probably less expensive, higher performing, higher reliability, but they just won't listen to you. Sometimes it's a gatekeeper. If you're selling an IT product, it could be the IT manager. If you're selling an HR solution, it could be the HR manager. Sometimes it's the CEO himself, even if you've got an opportunity. He says, great, I'll talk to you when I need. Now, the reason that happens is that for most large accounts, procurement is a headache. They don't want to change. So, once a particular vendor is in, he's in for a long time, unless they already have an organized way of selling to of buying from multiple vendors. So, in such cases, if a vendor starts, who is selling to that large account, starts messing up, then slowly the customer starts saying, oh, he's not doing well, but he's done well, so for so many years, maybe I'll give him another chance. After a while, if he consistently keeps doing badly, then he'll say, I got to look for a change, I got to consider a change. And finally, like I said, the last instance is when there is an actual service breakdown with the with the large account, when an existing vendor has done badly. Now that's a great opportunity for you to get in and be the savior and sell there. So information is really power in large account selling, and opportunism is very important. One way to actually build your large account base is to have this 20 odd prospects whom you'll keep contacting intensely, and another 100 who you stay in touch with, and keep on telling them, here's a newsletter from me on my product. I've sold here. So and so customer is happy with me. This is what I have introduced newly. And the customer just keeps storing that. So if in his hierarchy of vendors, you may not be first, you may not be second, you may be number N. But as you send him more and more information, you slowly rise in that hierarchy and come to number 5, number 4, number 3, number 2. So suppose there are 100 people you're contacting and you're constantly in touch with them. So a statistical truth is that just like maybe 2% of a population in a town dies every year, maybe out of these 100 prospects, about 5 of them will be really fed up with their number 1 vendor. So if that happens and you've risen from number N to number 2 because of your CRM, your customer relationship management, your communication, you're sending newsletters and so on, then when the breakdown does happen, they call you and say, who's that smart young guy who's been sending me all this information? Let me call him. And that's your opening, and that's how you get in. So this is really a brief introduction to why we need to do large account management, how it is different from other types of selling, and a few strategies that you can apply. So the growing with large account business is interesting. It's got its own opportunities. It's also got risks. It's like swimming with a powerful current. So sometimes things could go wrong, but if you know how to navigate the current, it's tremendous. And knowledge, process, and organizational character have to be sort of modified to really dovetail with the strategy. So because of the kind of limitation of time that we have and the ocean of the subject, we can't probably talk much more about it, but I hope this introduction is useful for you, and I hope some of you will build really successful large account selling models for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jairam. It was an amazing experience to hear you speak, and I'm sure all our members who are viewing this have benefited tremendously. You can contact Mr. Jairam through MentorSquare, and you can also interact with him through the membership, which we can explain to you on a one-on-one basis after this call. And we will get back in touch with you just to get some feedback. Now, Mr. Jairam is open to take any questions.